Hello everybody and welcome to episode 5. This week's recap episode will cover both Tier 1 and Tier 2's race around the Suzuka circuit in Japan. As you can see on the left hand side of the graphic on your screen, this week we head to round 5, which is Suzuka, a fan favourite track that returned in real life this year after 3 years out due to COVID. It's a fan favourite track, but it's very difficult to get right. We saw a lot of spins, a lot of DNFs across both tiers, but at the same time, there was still some brilliant racing.
In qualifying, Elite Risk takes pole position by roughly 2 tenths off Tropical, which was quite close considering they've been battling a little bit throughout the season. Moving on into the race, at the start, speaking of Tropical and Elite, they had a daring battle throughout lap 1, where Elite eventually came out on top of that battle into lap 1. Moving on, Raza on lap 2, I believe, spun into the wall, which we'll kind of see a recurring theme over this race. Next, Scrubadub and Weeksy had an amazing battle. They went at it all race. We almost couldn't see a certain point where they weren't battling, but Scrubadub, at the first battle anyways, came out on top. Elite, I remember this one. Elite makes a bad mistake, losing P1. Obviously, that was very rough. So Scrubadub and Weeksy bang wheels, and Weeksy gets past because of it. Oh, for fuck's sake. Banged, as we've seen a recurring theme coming back, as he hit the wall into turn 1, spinning into the wall, which was very unfortunate for him. Moving on, Night Owl and Elite make contact into turn 1. This was quite a jaw dropper, seeing both cars drifting into turn 1, barely keeping both cars in control, which was quite a sight to see. It was Curl and Top Gun bang wheels the lap after. It was not much to say there. But Brad crashed and DNF'd, which will hurt his championship very roughly if he wants to try to get into this fight. Hurto spins Sven. This was a controversial topic. Kind of just tapped his rear end and he just went sliding into the gravel. And Tropical was your Suzuka winner.
So this week we are joined by Fixable Rhyme 803, both an FRR admin and your Tier 2 coordinator. It is an absolute pleasure to have him on.
So a very solid weekend. What are your intentions / your hopes coming into Japan?
Well, I always hope to pick up a race win, but ideally anywhere near the podium or the top 5 would be perfect to keep Aston Martin in there with a chance of winning the title.
Silence
once Who's going to go next?
So obviously you won the sprint at Sao Paulo. It's not a race win in FRR, but it is a sprint race win. How does it feel to achieve it, and how does it feel to line up on pole for the start of the Grand Prix?
It felt odd, to be fair. As I said, it's the first win I've had in FFR. I was nervy all the way, having to keep Derry behind me and just keep within Wekas and just keep close to him to his time penalty. So.
Okay, I thought you had won it on track, but it was down to penalties, was it?
He was there for a while.
Was it down?
And we'll get into and I don't know. You know what? Never mind. I'm not going to say anything because it's just going to stir up some arguments.
I mean, you can
No
say
swearing.
it. You can say it, and we see how bad it is.
Oh, jeez. All right. Shall I say one of mine?
Go on.
So, Fixable with an emphatic win in the sprint race. How do you feel before pressing A to try and get out onto that grid and starting that race? How do you feel before going into that race, knowing that you're going to lead the race, knowing that you're going to be put under some pressure, considering you're going to be pole?
It was just all about trying to get the car in the right place. That was all I was thinking about into turn one, to try and block people off and try and lead through the S's and get a good launch onto the first straight.
So, you and Nightowl are the Aston Martin pairing for this season. It's looking like a very strong pairing, even though you've had a few bad finishes collectively in terms of points. But there's been a lot of highs so far. I think there's 2 race wins, or definitely a good couple of podiums. But you've been incredibly close this season. In the main race, you've got a P4 and a P5. How does it feel to have a teammate that is so close and so close performance-wise? And what does it take to edge him out and sort of come out triumphant on top?
It's just through teamwork and making sure that we're both in sync and keep an eye on strategies together, make sure that we can maximise the points for a team together. And to come out on top, it's difficult, especially when you're racing someone with the calibre of Nightowl, who's very quick around most tracks.
So, track limits are quite a big thing at most tracks, especially for Tier 2, but Sao Paulo in particular. Were you struggling with track limits, or are you normally pretty good?
I didn't struggle, to be fair. It's all about getting the right balance in your setup, making sure you've got enough downforce and while still having enough speed for that main back straight. I think I picked up 2 warnings throughout the race, and that was towards the end when me and Nightowl were both pushing really hard to try and catch back up to the front 3.
It's not bad. I think some people had. I think there was. I can't remember who it was, but I think there was one person that had like 12 seconds in the end. That's for maybe. I mean, Harry's quite unlucky with track limits. I don't think. Well, I know I haven't, but I don't think Harry's quite found the balance in his setup. Or his setups, plural. Okay, so but based off the earlier one, you won the sprint race. It's the first sprint for the season. Do you think that the shorter distances allow you to?
The shorter race distance definitely does help a lot because it takes out the strategy element and it just sets it down to raw pace and just keeping and being consistent throughout, just keeping the car on track and staying out of trouble.
Do you think that you have more speed in the shorter races, or do you think it's just purely when people make mistakes, there's not as much time for them to catch back up?
It helps a lot with it being shorter, that when people do spin rounds, they've got to push really hard to catch back up, and that's when you see more and more mistakes taking place. It's just about keeping it on track and consistently just putting in lap times.
Thank you so much for coming on this week. So you're our last interviewee before the season break. So good luck in Japan. Yeah. No. By the time that this goes out, Japan have already gone on. So have a nice break. Rest up and good luck for Portimao. Oh, Portimao, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, thank you very much. Fixable.
Cheers. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers. Have a nice evening.
Have a good day.
You too.
He's fucking This week, our Tier 2 drivers also tackled the Suzuka circuit. We saw lots of spins, a fair amount of DNFs, but some brilliant wheel-to-wheel racing all up and down the field. Some big pace deficits, some big pace gaps between the tier, but a lot of good wheel-to-wheel racing. Go on.
So in qualifying, what we saw is that Tom Look joined quite late into the session, but he still managed to claim P1 at the last second, and his championship rival Night Owl finished just behind him in second. In the actual race, Ragnar went wide into the first turn on the first lap, and he somehow didn't lose any positions. Brewmaster went wide, and Wicker got an easy overtake on the McLaren. Josh in the Haas car and Moser, they span at the same time on a lap. Danmat goes wide, and he lost 2 positions. Ace of race pace, he span. He didn't have a good time for himself in the Alpine. Ragnar crashes and he caused a safety car quite early on inside of the Japanese Grand Prix. Adam Foreign gets a 5-second time penalty and a drive-through by ignoring yellow flags and under safety car rules. Tom Look overtakes his own teammates, which was Wekaz at the time. And from lap 6 to 11, Tom Look and Night Owl had some brilliant overtaking and re-overtaking battles between each other until Tom Look eventually pitted. Ace of race pace DNF'd, causing another safety car in the race. Josh in the Haas car, he crashes out, causing another safety car. Wekaz and Tom Look battle. Dan Mac DNFs. Josh EC and Moser battle. Both of those are in the Williams. Wekaz overtakes Tom Look. Tom Look went very slow and managed to lose a lot of time up to Night Owl. Tom Look retires on purpose. Big single DNFs, causing another safety car. Lajejack DNF'd. Brewmaster DNF'd, Joshy C got the fastest lap, and finally Night Owl was able to take it home for Aston Martin and for himself. And currently, right now, he leads in the Drivers' Championship. What will happen in Portugal, in Portimao, we'll have to see.
Well, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you all for listening and watching, even though it's still pictures still. Unfortunately, I still haven't found a perfect way to get clips. Also, I need to set aside a lot of time to get the clips, or we as a team need to set aside quite a lot of time to get the clips for each individual thing we talk about. We also need to try and extend how long we cover a recap, because especially the last 2 episodes, 2 or 3 minutes, trying to get the clips for that is going to be a pain. You'll see about a second of each clip, which isn't going to show what's gone on. So we're heading we head into the season break now. We've got a 2-week break. We're probably only going to put out 1 episode. Probably we still need to decide a date as a team. It might be a Friday, it might not. Either way, it is going to be 1 episode to cover the next 2, the Christmas and New Year break. We've got something very, very exciting and different planned. So keep an eye out for that episode. We get back racing again for round 6 of the season at Portimao.